One.
Okay, super. Thanks, Sharon. My name is James Curry. I'm a librarian here at the Thomas Uslav Business Center. I have the great pleasure to have three different individuals today. One's going to be a moderator and two are going to be guest speakers. Today's session will be a fireside chat, if you will. If you do have any questions or comments, just put them in the Q&A. Today's event will be recorded and will be sent to everyone within 24 hours. I do have a few housekeeping rules. So the library uses Zoom, but does not own Zoom. Zoom has its own privacy policy, or some would say privacy policy, that my colleague will shortly put on the chat screen. Please read that section that refers to third-party library service providers to understand how you and the library, meaning us, uses this service. The Q&A feature is enabled, as I mentioned. Today's event will be recorded and closed captioning is enabled for those who need it. So without further ado, welcome aboard, everyone. I'm really glad that you're here today.
Thank you so much, James. And thank you to the New York Public Library for hosting us today. I'm Megan Nakano. I'm the Executive Director and founder of the Asian American Chamber of Commerce of Illinois. And Teresa Ging is one of our board members. We offer pro bono consulting for Asian American entrepreneurs and those seeking to do business with them and advocate for Asian American owned businesses in all industries across the state. Our website, www.aaccil.org, has an Asian American business directory, an Asian American resource directory, and other resources for Asian American entrepreneurs. Besides our website, the best way to keep up with us is to follow us on LinkedIn for upcoming events, resources, and opportunities in the public and private sectors. Today, it's my pleasure to introduce you to our panelists, Teresa Ging, CEO and founder of Sugar Bliss, and Susan Chen, CEO and founder of Madam Susan Sauces. Let's start with introductions. Ladies, please tell us a little bit about yourselves and your businesses.
Okay, I'll start. So my name is Teresa Ging. I'm the CEO and founder of Sugar Bliss. We're headquartered in downtown Chicago. We've been around for almost 18 years. We started as a brick and mortar store in downtown Chicago doing corporate catering. We have over 200 different products and flavors. We started with just cupcakes and now have a wide variety of offerings, including cupcakes, cake pops, French macaroons, cookies, brownies. We also do vegan and gluten-free. We ship worldwide. Then in 2020, when COVID happened, we ended up launching our CPG line shortly after. So we took 3 of our most popular bakery cookies and made them shelf stable. So now we have them at a wide range of retailers, including Walgreens. We'll be launching in Mariano's, which is a Kroger banner in August in Chicago in 35 stores. And from there, we also have a food service division where we do larger format of corporate catering. So we do stuff for Chicago Bears, McCormick Place, and higher education like universities and colleges.
Thank you, Teresa. My name is Susan Chen. I am the CEO and founder of Madam Susan Sauces. I founded this company in 2023 in Brooklyn, New York, where we're based. And right now it's still very small. It's an artisanal sauce company where my husband and I hand make every single sauce. We have 3 Asian flavors. They're gluten-free and vegan. I have my umami sauce, which is the Japanese miso sake blend, a Sichuan dipping sauce, an authentic Chinese flavor, and then my chili crisp, which is made with 20 different spices and aromatics. My story into food actually came in quite a pivot. I had been working in corporate most of my life, everything from sales to finance, and I expressed my artistic creativity through the Burning Man community based out of Nevada. And there I actually ran the kitchens at Burning Man for the largest camp there. And during my time, I would be feeding hundreds of people, about 200 people a day in the desert, basically everything that they need to keep alive. And I made my sauces as a preparation ahead of time. And one of my fellow friends said, "Hey, have you ever thought of just bottling these?" So I did a soft launch of the product in July of 2023, and then I became officially a company in August of 2024, and I have been doing various markets in the New York City area. I'm in 11 different retailers, and as of today, I have launched a special menu item featuring my sauce at a local noodle bar called Myrtle Wombat. So a lot of progress, a short time, but a lot of learning in this time too. So I'm really happy to be here.
Thanks. So you both started out in corporate before transitioning into founding your own businesses. Can you tell us what inspired you to leave your corporate jobs and take the leap into the food industry, and what drew you to consumer packaged goods or CPG specifically?
Okay, I'll start. So I kind of backing up. So I went to University of Chicago and majored in economics and statistics. And how did I go from banking to baking? So I did that for about 6 years, working in equity research, investment banking, private equity, always covering consumer products and industrial companies. Not knowing I'd ever go into food. And my last couple years was specifically focused in, packaged foods, companies, retail services, or retail, food retail, food service too. Sorry, I'm in my store, so somebody just came in. Anyways, so I covered different areas of food, not knowing I was going to actually come into food. And then, we've had long days at work, and one day, one of my friends was sifting powdered sugar, and it looked so therapeutic that I asked her if I could try it. And that was kind of like our aha moment, my aha moment. And so I end up, giving my boss, a month notice, leaving the corporate world and enrolling in pastry school at Le Cordon Bleu Paris. So when I, did that for about a couple months, really enjoyed my time doing baking. And so when I came back to Chicago, kind of was like on a journey or mission to find a brick and mortar store location and open a local bakery. And that took about a year or so. I started off, doing, not local markets. I was baking at home, started doing a shared kitchen, but really, after I found the brick and mortar store location, really started developing, the whole business plan. What are we offering there? What are the price points? Who our consumers are? And, obviously, if you think of a bakery, you think of walk-in traffic, but I really wanted to focus on something else that has a higher margin and higher value. So I really focus on corporate catering, because like on average, our corporate catering can be anywhere from someone buying 2 dozen mini cupcakes to someone buying $20,000. So, so that's where I wanted versus like the one-off transaction. So, yeah, so that's kind of how I pivoted from CPG. COVID happened, we lost all of our corporate business. And I was sitting in my store, literally by myself because I had to lay off all 15 employees and listening like webinars and webinars. And we had a major airline come up to us asking us if we had something shelf stable, which we didn't. And so it got me thinking, if the world doesn't open up and we're still, only going to retail stores, drugstores, how do I get something in our bakery shelf stable? And so look, cupcakes, that's hard, cake pops. So what, is cookies? And so I took 3 of our most popular cookies and made them shelf stable. I also was in a program with Walgreens. It was an incubator program. Again, we had no cookies, but the buyer came to me and was interested in our brand because we're also Chicago based. And she worked with us for about a year to get our cookie line into Walgreens. So again, we had to get the UPC, the packaging, shelf stable, make sure our facility was GMP certified. So it sounds very quick, but it wasn't, so it's, we only have had the CPG since 2022.
Thanks, Teresa. Susan?
Sure. So what inspired me to leave corporate, which I still, candidly, I'm still part-time in corporate. I work for a software company right now, which really helps fund my startup and also helps fun life in New York City, which is very expensive. So just the realities of doing things and wearing multiple hats. So what really inspired me was that food has always been for me coming from a place of love, of expression, and how I share with others. So my grandfather, I have memories of him. He actually, on a personal note, passed away recently this year. He was 97 years old, so he's lived a long life. I would smell the delicious foods that he made in the kitchen. And this was back in China. So this is when I lived, when I was really young, back in China, and I was raised by my grandparents. And then from there on, I have just tried to learn. I'm a self-taught chef, and I learned how to make different things by experimenting. And for me, sauces were a great way. It's almost like chemistry of experimenting what worked, what didn't. And I made the stuff for myself out of convenience. I would bottle sauces and just put them in my fridge because I was a busy person. I worked full time in corporate. I had a heavy sales job in a big tech company. I was then at a tech startup. And I also, this is another very personal drive was I have a lot of food sensitivities. So I was like, there's got to be other people out there who want to eat healthy. They want to eat delicious. They want to know what's in their food. They want to be able to throw something together quickly and want something really flavorful at home and not just get takeout. And I can tell you when I was working in New York City, seamless was your best friend and you got pretty sick of it and it wasn't all that healthy. So that's where the idea of putting it out there of creating what is the foundation of flavor? It's in the sauce. So that's where my idea of creating a sauce company came from. But a little bit more of doing the research into why CPG, it's scalable. Initially, so in my spare time, I love doing dinner parties for friends and family. And I did some research into doing paid dinner parties. And that's where the name Madam Susan actually came from. Originally, the idea was being hostess with the mostest, but just doing the math. And I also have an MBA background as well. I went to Dartmouth, just doing the math, crunching the time, the effort, the ingredients, the marketing, all of that. It just wasn't going to be scalable for something that I want to do as a venture. So that's where the sauces were like, haha, here is my idea. And I'm still, I mean, I would say because I'm a very early stage startup, I'm still constantly testing the concept. I have 3 products right now. My friends are like, why don't you launch this? Why don't you launch this? I look through your pantry. I'm like, no, let me stay focused right now and keep testing the concept because from business school training, you want to make sure these are scalable, bring you margin, and also bring you brand recognition.
Thanks, Susan. Building a brand in the CPG space takes more than just a great product. It's about storytelling, marketing, connecting with your audience. So, how do you approach building your brands, and what's been the most effective in getting your product out there?
Do you want me to take it first, Susan?
Please, Teresa.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, obviously, we've built a brand for 18 years. And, when I first started, there was no social media. I mean, I hate to date myself, but I mean, Facebook and Instagram wasn't there. TikTok was definitely not there. So definitely social media is, where you want to do it, kind of get some exposure, but it's hard to kind of value the ROI on that. It's like, even if we post like, Rocky Road cupcake or a cookie, it's like, you're not going to see immediate, and so we've kind of approached, so the CPG part is kind of our marketing arm right now. I mean, we're spending a lot of money on marketing the product, especially because with retailers, there's a small window of showing your traction, and so like, you have to, when we sell stuff at our store, we're only kind of accounting to ourselves, but at retailers, it's, they want to see, 3 to 4 cookies per week per store. So, I mean, how do we get that marketing? So, as our go-to market strategy for Mariano's, and we did this also for Walgreens, we have a press release going out. We have a media kit, trying to get as much local media covering us on the launch. We're also doing demos. So we're launching at 35 Mariano's stores in Chicago. It's some in the city, some in the suburbs. We've hired a demo team to market our information, newsletter, social media. Um, so, it is a lot of marketing. And the funny thing is also, um, you know, n- with CPG, a lot of times it's exciting to get on the shelf. But the funny thing is that it's even harder to stay on the shelf. And then and every retailer wants you to spend marketing dollars. So I'll give you an example. I'm not going to name the retailer, but, um, you know, there are two major distributors out there. There's KE and Unify, and each of them have a fee to get into the distributor. And they're the largest distributors that distribute to all these independents and conventional grocers. And so there's a fee for that. And then they also have a margin for that. And then once you get into the retailer, they may ask a slotting fee, and it's like per SKU per item. They may also add an advertising fee, and they would like 16 weeks of advertising, and that's also marketing. And then they would also want a free fill. So, each store gets a free. So there's a lot of marketing dollars that you're not necessarily, I mean, you're putting into your brand, but you also have to collaborate with CPG. And that's a lot of things that like a lot of CPG brands that don't understand that, once you may be in part of a local market, but once you kind of go to the next step and try to get into more retailers, a lot of them will ask for that kind of contribution so that you're investing in making sure your products sell off the shelf.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, Teresa. And I think, you have a lot more experience in your 18 years building up Sugar Bliss especially in that retail space. The retail space is all about velocity. They want to be seeing sales. They want you to be spending the marketing money behind them. So right now I am going to the retailers right now to do demos of my products. I realize one of the biggest challenges of my products is that with sauces versus something like a baked good where you can just take it and eat it, people have to be educated on how to use the product. And that's where my focus right now, I'm actually taking a step back I used to be doing markets every single weekend, sometimes like Saturday, Sunday, like full day on, slog the tent, slog all the products out there in all weather conditions. And now I'm taking a step back because I realized, okay, it's great, like build up a local base here, but if I want to grow and scale, I really need to be getting out there to educate people on how to use these things and how these could be easy ways to flavor up your food. Like I literally was just working on this of like quick fix hacks of how to use the sauces, and then another section of like culinary recipes for people who want to delve into that, because not everybody, you want to segment your customers to make sure that you're talking to them in the right way. For some people, if you're talking to them about a recipe, it's going over their head. And so right now I don't know what the magic, I don't really know what the secret is. I'm figuring it out of how to build this brand. And part of it, I think a lot of it is education, it's marketing dollars. I'm going to be launching paid media soon. Right now, I've just been doing it organically through social. And I think what I'm seeing is I have good repeat buyerships from people who have tasted my product, but it's now getting out to people who've never tried it and make them want to try it. So I don't know what the secret is. So I'm trying to figure that out. And I think that's part of the fun and part of the journey and the challenge of building a CPG brand. Like it's such a crowded space. What makes you stand out? I constantly ask the question I constantly ask myself is like, what is your brand DNA that makes you stand out above the hundreds, thousands of different sauces that are on the grocery store shelves?
I was just gonna add, when we do these, so one of the things, well, let me see if I could show you real fast. So this is one of our, it's not full fill, but this is a PDQ. And so this will go into convenience. So if you look at it, it's like pretty much marketing all over, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so this can go into retailers and convenience channels. And so then you look at the packaging. So it has women minority owned, it has our story, it has our certification. So like, like for your packaging, like if you guys are developing any product, like you know, when you're a kid, you're probably reading the back of a cereal, you know, and people want to know the story, you know, put your Instagram. So it's really important to have your packaging stand out, because that is basically your billboard, you know. And
Right.
so when we're launching into some of these retailers, you know, we look at the individual unit packaging, we look at the inner case, which is that long, and then we're also doing shippers, so which is an end cap display. So whenever you know, go to the grocery store and you see like those little cardboard, like we have a really colorful end cap display. And so unfortunately, that costs us money, and we can't give that money to you know, we can't pass that consumer. So we use that as a marketing. So say it's $100 to make that end cap marketing display, and it sits at the grocery store for 4 weeks. That's $25 per week. I don't think you can get a Facebook ad for, you know, and the
Yeah.
amount of people that walk by it. So you have to think like other like, you know, ways that are costs to the CPG, but they're also marketing dollars to help build your brand.
Yep, exactly. Like every time I go out there when I'm doing a demo, all the costs associated, to me, that's all marketing dollars.
Yeah.
I feel like, you know, it's just marketing at the end of the day. Actually, you brought a really good idea. I'm gonna ask the next question. I'm gonna go grab, I have a product literally right over there. I'm just gonna grab some so you can see what my packaging looks like.
Yeah.
1 second.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that increasingly people want to support businesses that are local, that are owned by folks who, you know, they can relate to and they can identify with. And so, you know, telling them that you're a woman and minority owned business, I think is definitely compelling. And I know Teresa is certainly out there all the time promoting her brand, and people, I think, want to support the brand, not just because it's delicious, but because they also love Teresa and they know her. So I think that's part of it, is right. And it's like doing the circuit and making sure that everybody knows who you are.
Yeah. So this is just, if you can see that, this is my chili crisp bottle. And what it is here is that it is softer. I want to communicate that as a woman-led company. This is also very personal because it's my art on the
Oh,
bottle. I'm just showing you 1 out of 3, just for it's what I have readily like right here. But this is, I also didn't want it to be loud because I noticed everything on the shelves is super vibrant and loud and kind of in your face. And if I add something loud, 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 it's just going to get blend in. So that's what my bottle looks like right now. So far, I've gotten compliments. I've gotten people to tell me to make this even bolder, but we'll see. We'll see. I think at the stage, I'm not married to anything in my brand because I know I'm very early on. So I take the data and the feedback, and I'm going to keep evolving with it.
Well, I think it's beautiful, but
Thank
I
you.
think also, Teresa, like, don't the companies also have some input into their packaging as well?
you mean the retailers?
Tailors.
Not so much. I mean, I've had again, like our packaging is pretty vibrant. You know, it's like when you know, we did a lot of research going down the cookie aisle, and you know, when you think of blue, you think of Oreos. When you think of red, you think of Nabisco or Chips Ahoy. When you think of green, you thought Tate's. And so we wanted something that like didn't get muddled and didn't look value. We wanted something more premium because our price point is higher. But we, you know, we've had retailers. I had one retailer that was like, your packaging is too bright. Like you should look at some other brands, but it was a retailer we kind of a more discount retailer. And I'm like, you know, you can take retailers' feedback and consumers' feedback, but I wouldn't change everything unless everyone says that. You know what I mean? So we've stayed true to our packaging. Well, in regards to size count, yes. I mean, we've had, you know, we started out with a 5-ounce bag of mini cookies, and we had a major food service company that was interested in like a grab and go. And so we kind of formulated a 2-ounce bag for them. And actually, it allowed us to like enter into the alternate channels like convenience store and marketplaces and stuff like that. So sizes always is a, you know, good to listen to your you know, consumer or retailers. But yeah, I mean, there's always going to get feedback, you know. Some our cookies a little bit more crunchier, and people are like, I wish it was a softer cookie. It's like they don't know the behinds of shelf stableness. It's like it's really hard to make a cookie soft for 12 months without putting a lot of preservatives in there, and we have really low amount of preservatives, so it's a more of a crunchier cookie.
As Asian American female founders, you've likely faced both unique challenges and opportunities. Can you share some of the highs and lows of your journey and whether that's related to funding, representation, or breaking into the industry?
Susan, I'll let you start at this time.
Sure. So for me, I think I'm still again, I'm still fairly early in my journey. I've honestly felt pretty supported, especially here in New York. I've been doing a lot of events with the Brooklyn Chamber of Commerce, has been exceptionally supportive of Asian American and women in business. I'm actually starting a cooking class with them next month. I did their Asian American Heritage Night. In terms of funding, I've been bootstrapping. And the reason I've been bootstrapping is I can, and I can maintain control over the company. And I've looked into business loans. I will need a business loan at some point, but it needs to be for a very specific purpose, not just for not ongoing working capital. I'm funding everything back from sales. Like 100% of my sales right now are reinvested back into the business to keep the business going. Just to keep it so that we don't take on the funding. But if I need the next scale to bump up, say, for example, we get into a large retailer and we need to get a co-man to produce X many thousands of, tens of thousands of units, that may be a time. So I can't really, I guess at this point, in terms of highs and lows, I have a lot of, I guess, personal production story lows and just lows of just running a small business. It's a slog. I'm going to be honest. It is exhausting. It's a slog. There were many days when I've sat at markets and it was a complete wash rain out and not made a single sale and had to pay hundreds of dollars for that booth fee. So, okay, that's a slog, and you're trying to salvage everything and keep all your displays and product dry. I have been burned many times cooking in the kitchen. I've also had days when our
Oh, war
portion.
rooms.
Oh yeah, war. Oh yeah, exactly. There's just like they're pride scars at this
Yeah.
point. And there's also been days when the cook nothing went according to plan. I've had either just everything that could go wrong has gone wrong, starting with your supplier sent you the wrong order. So, things like that, it happens and you gotta roll with it. And I think, and for me, it's just preparation of like, it's going to continue to happen. But you got to be able to continue and roll with the punches and not get discouraged. So I know it didn't really answer the question about like about the funding part, because honestly, I haven't really gotten there yet to the point where, and I specifically look for women and minority, focused, like loans and other funding programs and grants. So those are specifically what I target, because I know they're out there.
How about you, Teresa?
So I mean, when I first started, local business, small business was like the initiative, right? And then over time, women-owned businesses, minority-owned, AAPI, like, I think, we just finished AAPI month in May, and I mean, I would say like 10 years ago, we didn't get a lot of orders, I mean, like sorry, it was like May was just another month, you know what I mean? But now there's so much, like, I posted on LinkedIn. I went to 17 networking events. I was like on 7 panels. I was like, what? Like, it was so busy, and it's great that there's so much support for women-owned businesses, AAPI, diverse-owned, minority-owned. I was fortunate when I was on my way to Paris. Our flight got delayed and I was sitting there waiting, and there was another, I was going to pastry school, and I didn't know if I was going to start a business or whatever. And there was a woman, we were talking, and she had a yoga mat cleanser company. And she's like, you should look up the Women's Business Development Center when you come back. And that's a not-for-profit organization in Chicago. And it helps, women and men, start up their businesses. So I looked at them, and I've been, they've helped me, from, looking at my business plan to securing a business loan. We had a first business loan for our first retail store. Yeah, I could have probably liquidated my 401k and, sold my condo, but, I decided to get a business loan from the bank. And, that was really good, and I ended up paying it off in 3 years, just because I think as Asian, I don't want debt. I don't know. It's like in our blood, right? And so I end up paying off that loan. But I've always had support with women owned organizations. I mean, women organizations, like the We Bank, NMSCC, I have women and minority founders, chambers and stuff like that. And so when we took our cookie and made them CPG ready, I really wanted a mission driven cookie. And so a portion of our proceeds goes to women WBDC. So we have a scholarship to help more women and minority entrepreneurs get certified, because certification has helped open our opportunities for us. So not only am I advocating to help the next generation of women and minority entrepreneurs, but I also try to work with a lot of supplier diversity, which is still around, even in this political climate, because there are still a lot of supplier diversity organizations with corporate that want to support, women and minority businesses. So we've been excited to give out 35 scholarships so far. Again,
Actually met at Chicago Minority Supplier Development
yeah,
Council.
yeah. I mean, years ago, like, yeah, I think the first
Yeah.
time I had just joined NMSDC in 2017. And that's when I met Megan when she was still there. I know, gosh, that was like, it seems like it was 20 years ago, but anyways, and then in regards to bootstrapping, like I still own 100% of my company, and we are right now looking into doing a line of credit for working capital, because it takes so long for these retailers to pay us back. And so just as a revolving, but we have some other projects down the line that we might be building out a commissary plant that we might get a commercial or construction loan. But at this point, I am now starting talking to investors, because there are so many different divisions of our businesses that are business that are interesting to investors. So yeah, so again, I've been doing this for 18 years, so I am looking for an exit plan in the next 10 years. So looking at an exit plan, investors that are not just I'm not donating, but more of a strategic investor that has connections in CPG or food service.
So you're both at very different stages in the CPG space. And I'm wondering, Susan, you're still in the startup phase. Can you talk a little bit what it's like to wear so many hats in production, packaging, distribution, operations, sales? Um, how do you manage all of that as one person with a job?
All I can say is it's really hard, and trying to do everything all at once is impossible. So I have to be strategic right now. Like I said, an example is I pulled back from my physical markets because I want to focus more on the branding, on the social media, on the education front, and also on the pipeline within the existing brick and mortar stores to generate a higher velocity of sales there. I I do have my husband who helps me out a lot. He also has a full-time job as well. So both of us have a full-time job, and we're, we basically, we go 7 days a week, and it's, I think you just end up, you just do it. It's like, you have to then prioritize some things. Candidly, I want to do, it's just not possible at this very single time and moment, but it's taking it in smaller chunks and making it so that also you don't overwhelm yourself. Because there have been many points where I have absolutely overwhelmed myself, and that's when the burnout happens. And I haven't been doing it that long, and I'm like, I need to make this sustainable, because CPG is not, it's a long road. It's not this is a, for me, I knew going into this, this was going to be a multi-year, I'm really happy to see Teresa in it, and also talking to other founders, like talking to other founders at the Fancy Food Show who've been doing it. They are it's how long can you stay? How long can you stay in the game, really? And you got to make it sustainable for you. So for me, my strategy is prioritizing what am I doing now? It means having to pull back on some other things. I have been able to hire 2 part-time employees to help me because I can't do everything myself. But I also don't have the scale or right now really the need to go beyond that in terms of getting help. I have one more person who I'm partnering with on social media who is a TikTok consultant. Um, but they're at the end of the day, all these people cost money. It's all marketing money, I call it at the end, at the stage. So it's pacing it out and spreading it out to yourself to where you can manage. And it may not, like, I'm a person where I'm like, I want things to go quickly. And you think things happen overnight, nothing ever does. Everything takes so much more time than you think it will. And just learning to have the patience and the perseverance to do this.
I like that you, understand that it's so important to just have longevity, given that nearly 20% of all businesses fail within a single year. And by 5 years, half have closed. So, and to survive alone is to beat out your competition. So that's great. A great attitude. Teresa, Sugar Bliss is now approaching 18 years in business, and your cookies are sold in Walgreens, Soldier Field, O'Hare, and now Mariano's. Can you shed a little light on some of the hidden costs? I think you touched on this, but some of the hidden costs and challenges of getting your products onto the shelves and scaling your distribution?
Yeah, so again, I probably would never have gotten the CPG if I wasn't in the Walgreens incubator. I was more just kind of learning about like how do I, survive COVID? And so we launched in August of 2022. We're in about 30 or 25 Walgreens, sorry. And in Chicago market. And it's now approaching, 3 years. And so we sell it at the checkout. But again, like drugstore is a little bit different than retailers. So there's a platform called Range Me, which I suggest anyone that is in the CPG to look into it. There's a premium, there's basic and premium allows you to do one-time submission, or sorry, allows you to do ongoing submission. So like, let's just say, Whole Foods has a category review coming up and you can submit it. Whereas if you're the basic plan, I don't think you're allowed to submit it. So it is an investment of $1,000, I think, or so, a year. But if you think about it at $100 a month, versus hiring a broker, it's really reasonable, And so once you get that meeting, then you have to pay another fee. But anyways, at least you get to start pitching and getting that experience on that. So I probably have pitched to so many retailers, and again, some of them it's like, I don't online date, but I feel like it. It's like, you're interested in me. Wait, you're not, you're ghosting me, and then you come back and whatever. So that's how retailers work. So we've been really successful on ECRM. It's gotten us some retailers. But we also got a distributor through that. So KE has a trend finder. I think they do it like every quarterly. And the first year I submitted, we didn't get it. The second year I submitted, and then we actually were the golden ticket winner. So again, I would say like try as many times. It's just buyers change, buyer requirement. Maybe they didn't want a peanut butter cookie and they want one now, or whatever it is, So so we did, ECR has been really great. And from that KE golden ticket, we did a distributor show last summer. And then I met a founder, and then he was like, I'm doing a water tasting at Mariano's. Do you want to come? So I went to the Mariano's thing, got introduced to their VP of marketing and branding. And then she was like, really liked our cookies, asked me if I wanted to do a Shark Tank format pitch to Roundies. And I ended up pitching to the executive versus the category buyer. And we got into Mariano's. And so, yeah, so it's always kind of, I do a lot of networking. You just never know. You know what I mean? Like, had we not done the if I had not submitted to Kahigan, if I had not done the distributor show, had, all these things happen, you know what I mean? I think, what was the other question, part of the question? Just like, oh, the fees, the hidden fees. So, um, yes, there is, I mean, as I touched upon it, there's slotting fees, there's free fill. Sorry, I'm probably talking in weird language, but free fill means giving the retailer a free case. So our cookies come in 12 per case. So I would have to give each store a 12 count case, and then we have 3 SKUs. So if that costs me $24, then that's $72 times X amount of stores. So 72 times 100 stores, you do the math. So that is I would not say a hidden cost, but that's a cost. There's a slotting fee, which is like per SKU per item. So let's just say it's $1,500. That's a cost. Now you get to 10,000. I'm just saying 100 stores. Now then they want advertising fee. And so there's a lot of, I would say, like, some grocers, you could enter into it at $10,000, and the ROI could take, anywhere from 8 months to a year to get it at selling, 4 cookies per store per month. So I would say not all retailers are the best retailers. Some of them have lower cost to entry. So like, I literally have a spreadsheet on every single retailer we're in, and there's off invoices fees, there's merchant chargeback fees, there's distributor fees. So you really, I would say it's a pennies game. It's like, how many pennies? You're not talking about, like, when you look at the dollar that is selling at the grocery store, just remember the brand makes the least amount. This distributor makes a cut, the retailer makes a cut, the person that manufactured it, which is usually a co-man. So, again, at the retail bakery, we manufacture all of our products, but for the stuff that we sell at CPG, we have we have a co-man that manufactured it. And it's not like we can manufacture 100 cookies, 1,000. We just did a production of almost 80,000 cookies, packed into 35 pallets. So now I got to go sell all those cookies. So it's a long game, and and what happens with CPG is you get into retailers, there's all these fees. So you have to think about that. And it's a long game, you really have to make sure. We just hired a broker too that represents our brand. So that's been, an experience too. We're trying to see how fast they can work it. But again, I'm still the brand. And so I've gotten some retailers still on my own without them. So yeah, as a founder, I'm still working many hats. I'm CEO, COO, chief delivery, marketing, whatever, you name it, demo.
You'll never stop asking people if they want to try a sample. Like, I think in any CPG, I also saw this like with all my other, like, the people I know in the New York area. They're like, that's what you're gonna be like, you have your sample pitch like running in your dreams, basically in your head.
Teresa, did you tell me that you're responsible when product goes off the shelf, like if somebody steals it, for example, from the store, that's a cost to you?
It depends. Certain retailers, they'll buy it, and it's called scam-based trading. So if you are merchandising it at a store and you're putting on the shelf, you only get paid once it goes transacts. So if you put 100 in there and it sits in the back room, you'll never get paid until they put it in the front of the store. And if somebody decides to steal 25 cookies, you will not get paid. So you also have to account for shrink and expiration. So, again, we have a 12-month shelf stable, but if you have like let's just say we sold freshly baked items and we're shipping it directly to the store and they never put it on the shelf and we're scam-based trading, yes, we would never get paid for it. So basically, yeah. So again, a lot of the other retailers, once you start getting like Mariano's, they're buying it and then they sell it, and but it's like we have to make sure that we sell every single unit to continue it, because they're looking at the data. It's not like once you get in there, you got to move those items and you got to do promos.
When you started your business, what was your end game or long-term vision? You talked about the the long game. Um, has that evolved over time based on your experiences in the industry?
Yeah, I mean, when I started, it was just a brick and mortar store. I ended up opening a second brick and mortar store. And then I ended up consolidating to one brick and mortar store. And then we just did an RFP for the airport for two more brick and mortar stores. So I don't know, it always changes. So I didn't think I was going to be doing CPG, and now we're doing that. I didn't think we were going to do food service. We're doing the Chicago Bear season again. And then continuing to expand in the food services division. We've been approached by a major coffee company to do cake pops. So we might be, doing manufacturing cake pops. So, I mean, we do so much desserts, and we do all kinds of it. So it's interesting to different companies, and you can do private label. So yeah, so I never really thought that I was going to do all this until now. And it's right now kind of having 20 million irons in the fire and just seeing which one will be my end game, because, again, I've been doing this for 18 years. So I'm trying to grow the company to the point that, either a PE firm or someone wants to buy Sugar Bliss so I can like have an animal sanctuary.
How about you, Susan? What's your end game?
So when I first started this business, I wanted my sauces to be a gateway into a variety of different other adjacent CPG type products, such as cookware. And I also love plants and gardening. So plants, gardenware, kind of like all around general homeware. Now, I don't know if I'll get there, but that's like, my dream is to be able to kind of have this like all round like home products with food, with garden, with decor, like that kind of stuff. Um, but I've also like just learning more about the business, about just how prominent the buyout with a larger, either from PE or from a larger conglomerate like Unilever or Kraft, especially for foods. That may be my end game for this particular brand, for the sauce business, because they're looking for other things to slot into their portfolio, and ultimately that is a lot of the way that the food goes. And I'm still exploring that. So, I just mentioned two ways of expansion, and expansion also means that depends on what role I play, because a lot of times the founders, even if you get bought up by a larger company, the founders will still stay on in a capacity, like in some, whether it's in running operations or running creative or however it is. So I think there's a lot of ways I can go right now, and that's still very much exploratory, but I I think like one of the clear paths is definitely a buyout.
We have a question in the Q&A, and since we're kind of running short on time, I'm gonna jump in and just take this question. What is the one thing or couple of things that a startup CPG company is rarely or never thinking of initially that they should be coming up with a plan for earlier on?
Oh, I would say that most CPG companies, yes, like doing like farmers markets, great. You know, and a lot of people want to go into retailers. Um, it's very expensive, you know what I mean? And there's a lot of things that go into getting into a retailer. You know what I mean? Like, do you have enough insurance? Do you have recall insurance? Like, how are you going to distribute it? Like, if you want to get into most of the major retailers, you need to go get into a major distributor like KeHE Unify. And in order to be in KeHE Unify, you need an anchor account. So like we have to have Mariano's to open us. You cannot just say like an independent, which is like a smaller, grocer, like you have to kind of look at your supply chain, how to get into these, Um, and you have to have cash. I mean, I hate to say it, you have to have capital. There is so much marketing. You think about your product, you need to make that product, you know what I mean? And you have all these advertising costs, and it's, they say 60-day payout, but it's really not 60 days. So, you know, you need to have a revolving door of cash to be. And so what happens is a lot of these CPG companies go into this and, you know, they're doing farmers markets, small amount of retailers, and then they try to get to that next level and they run out of cash, you know what I mean? And a lot of them exit out of there. And it's okay. Like you don't have to be in retailers. Maybe your thing is just, you know, selling it to farmers markets or just B2C, not to, you know, like retailers. And that's okay, you know. So I would say it's like understand your pricing, you know, understand what it actually costs, including your labor and the bottle and everything, the ship and freight time, or freight. And then figure out, you know, a distributor makes usually anywhere from 20% to 30% margin. You know, and then the retailers want 40 to 50% margin. And then now you have the consumer. So you got to back it into it and figure, and then you have to think about promos, you know, because any promo that goes happening, when I do a 2 for $7, that whatever promo, let's just say 50 cents, that cuts into my margin. The retailers don't take that margin, you know? So I would say like understanding the numbers game is really important.
I would say I agree with that 100%. Understanding the numbers game, the math behind your products, how are you going to fund? It always takes more money, and also the time and energy that you're going to be putting into it. Really understanding the entire supply chain of the particular industry of that product, and also how much weight something and cost packaging really takes, especially for CPG. You know, if you think about it, like most consumers, unless I'm there demoing or something, or for if Teresa's there demoing, consumers are buying a lot of times on the packaging of the product and how much research and just the big companies have a lot of money to put into like certain colors. I've been told like red and yellow make people hungry, which is why McDonald's uses those colors in scientifically uses those colors in their logo. But all of those aspects of learning and the psychology behind people buying, I think that's a lot of research for founders to also look into to make a successful company. Because at the end of the day, your goal is to get people to buy, and you're not always going to be there to speak to the product. The product has to speak to itself. So finding a way to communicate that, whether it's through packaging, whether it's through marketing, whether it's through some sort of like, I was literally told by a food industry consultant, because something tastes good is not going to be your differentiator. That's not why people are going to buy your product. No one's ever going to buy something because it tastes better. It has to be something else that speaks to them.
Uh, well, we got a couple more questions in the chat. What are the things you wish you had waited to spend money on earlier on?
Okay, I mean, I've just been really, because it's been my own money the entire time. I've been super careful about spending money in this business. And just weighing all the things. There were some things to get economies of scale, like my labels, for example. I just had, and there were minimums I had to meet, and I spent a lot of money on that. I think you know, for me, some of my poorest investments have been some of the farmers markets because of just their ROI. They're good for marketing, but they're not the most sustainable or the way to, you know, to get scale on your company.
How about you, Teresa? Any financial regrets?
I mean, it is, you know, Stephanie, again, I own 100% of the company. So every 50 cents is 50 cents to me, you know what I mean? So, not that I've been frugal, but you know, because I had the finance background, I do look at our P&L all the time. You know, I did open a second store or a third store at one point, and that was kind of like, and that's another topic we can talk about, but I ended up having the store too close to each other, and I ended up spending the amount of we had double expenses and half the sales at that store. Like, so, you know, it's like, I'm not sure if it's like what I shouldn't have spent on, but I'm like, you know, maybe always go by your gut. Like, I didn't really want to open the second store, but I did because I thought there was another opportunity, but I thought it's too close to my other store. So, at the end it was fine, but for a couple years it was a little bit painful, like we were just like paying double expenses for no reason, you know what I mean? So I would say with the CPG part, hiring a broker, what I would say is every CPG has to figure out when it is right to hire a broker, or if it is right time. And brokers can range, I've heard brokers are $1,500 a month retainer to 15,000. Okay. You got to figure out, is it regional, local, national? Okay. And what are they doing? You know what I mean? And so, we end up hiring one on the higher end, but they also have a distributor arm that basically helps with all of our onboarding and stuff like that for all the distributors and the retailers. I'm telling you, it takes hours, and they are knowledgeable, and they've actually helped us avoid mistakes. So I would think that like looking at a broker is an extension of the sales of your business, but you only can do it when it's the right, because it is expensive. You know what I mean? A lot of the good ones do a retainer and growth or commission. So you got to make sure when it's ready, you're ready to do it. But they have helped us avoid a lot of mistakes, that I'm fortunate that we have not made those mistakes in the last 6 months.
Well, thank you so much, ladies. It was great talking to you today. And thank you to James and Sharon and the New York Public Library. And I'm very excited to come back October 1st at 3 p.m. when I will be moderating another panel with two Chicago restaurateurs, Kathy Hardy, founder and owner of A Taste of Philippines, and Margaret Pack, chef and founder of Tattoo. So I'll see you all then. Any last words, ladies?
No.
I think
Oh, there was a question about AI. What I will say is I use it every single day. I use it not only to, revise emails, but you know, w- do grant applications or whatever. So, I mean, if you're not using AI, I mean, even as a bakery CPG company, I use AI. So sorry, I just looked at the chat.
I agree. And if you have an idea, start testing your idea. Just start soft testing your idea, get some data, get some research, see if it's worth launching. And then that way you can make that determination if you want to start your own CPG company.
Well, I just want to say thank you so much, Megan, for doing all the moderating. I didn't have to do anything today, which is great. I do have to do a follow-up email, but that's another thing. But anyway, Susan, Teresa, I just want to say thank you for coming on the show today. It's definitely great having you. It's just great to sort of like explain, all the opportunities and also all the risks and cost of operating in this market space. It's definitely involved, and it gives a good scope to people that are listening, particularly people that want to enter the CPG marketplace. What are some of the barriers? What are some of the costs that you're going to have to overcome to be successful? So I really, really appreciate your insight today. Megan, for definitely doing the moderating. Absolutely perfect job. And we're looking forward to having you back on October the 1st. And of course, Susan and Teresa, we can hopefully do the same thing around this time next year and see where you are, whether the business has been sold, expanded. Probably see Teresa's merchandise at the World Cup. Correct?
Hopefully.
Yeah, and maybe Susan's product at the fan zone here with the World Cup. So that's my hope and wishes for the two of you. So again, I definitely want to say thank you and cheerio from New York. And until we meet again.
Bye, everyone. Thank
Bye.
you.
Thanks, guys. Bye.